Natasha, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, it's actually I'm so excited to have this podcast episode. I saw your video on TikTok, and I was like, I have to welcome you in the podcast because I just like how you articulate stuff, and just like seeing, right now I'm in like this phase where I just like seeing people who are like, Kenyans or Africans doing things and like doing stuff out there. When I watch a movie and I don't see a Kenyan or like an African person, most of the time I'm just like, I'm not vibing with this,
Yeah, also with like books. I cannot read a book that like I feel like I'm not resonating with.
Mm-hmm.
I've been reading like African books too.
Mm-hmm. That's
So,
amazing. So, Natasha, what is your definition of quality education?
I've been thinking about that question ever since you asked me because like I think it's a very hard question to answer. I mean, I would say that I had a very good quality education. And I usually think that it is one where you get to have a lot of critical thought that is brought into formal education. Like in my school, you had to explain your ideas, whether it be in biology or in history or in English. They had to be able to follow your thought process. And at the end, like you should make sense. And I feel like that is one part of quality education that we should strive for. But it was also very holistic. I think that I did a lot of subjects in high school. That's like a good and a bad thing. I think I was just like I'm done with chemistry. I don't care. But it was good that I did it. I'll say to a basic level, everything should be learned, but it also like including extracurriculars. I did a lot of like MUN and debate, and I sang, and like I did art, things that are just not usually there in Kenyan schools. And I think that's quality education, when something is quite holistic and robust and allows for a whole rounded individual. I think also schools, like the school that I was in was even more of a quality education because it was like an international school. So there was like a lot of different um people, like the whole world was there for me to like understand and see different viewpoints. Understanding like histories of the whole, like different cultures. We did Chinese history, Kenyan history, stuff like that. Just like a very globalized, holistic quality education. Yes.
Yeah, it's actually interesting you say that you learned Chinese history because here in America we have like a class that is talking about like we have to read literature books, but like most of the books are Western books, like they are
Yeah.
either based on in Europe or the United States. They're like, because like technically we have every student in the world, we should incorporate other works. So it's really fascinating. And I don't know how you can compare that to the education in Europe, the Kenyan education that you received and the European education.
I mean, the thing is, I think I was in a very unique position because I was in a European school in Kenya.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I think that changes. Like Kenyan system, I understand when you only focus on Kenyan history, how it is. I just think it wasn't like when I hear about how people, okay, for example, when we talk about the Mau Mau and the striving for independence, we in our school we were critical about every single piece that we read, whether it be by Europeans or by Africans. But I feel like in a Kenyan school that doesn't exist. It's like you read a textbook, you learn information, and you give it out. There's no like giving a thought process, because I never saw like multiple choice. For like the whole time I was in that European school, it was just like you have to explain yourself and you have to understand it. I think Kenyan schools are like really good at getting people who know how to retain information and who not take, like put it in your head, remove it. But it doesn't really help foster thinkers because they don't really get encouraged to think. It's like a wrong thing to think in a Kenyan school. I was in a Kenyan school before I got a scholarship. And I wasn't asked like, what do you think about this? It was just like, this is what you learn and this is what you're going to answer in the exam. So yeah, that's the main difference. It's like the critical thought is just not something that Kenyan adults want from children.
Oh yeah, because in high school actually we didn't have multiple choices, but we like had to just regurgitate everything that we learned from the textbook and just like spit it out in the paper. And it was it was just a game of memory, as you said. And Yeah,
That,
pretty traumatic, I should say, because like I wonder how like I used to, memorize all those things up to like the fourth year because unlike university where like you learn things, in a semesterly basis, in Kenya like you had to learn, I had to remember everything from like form one to form two to form three to form four. And wow, I was just like wondering how, I could remember every single thing. But here in the US I can say that in the
mhm.
exam setting, when we write essays, like the writing of essays is not as strict. They tell us, like they understand, like we're in a class setting and the exam is 3 hours long, so they will not like grade us harshly when we write an
Okay,
essay, as compared to like
interesting.
them giving us a takeaway exam and like we have to like research ourselves, which is contrasted to Kenya where like most of the exams were like in the class, setting. So like you had to write something good, and I feel like it taught me to like work under pressure. So I don't know what you think
Mhm.
about that. For example, here in the US, are we being raised to be like, not work under pressure?
I mean, the question is whether working under pressure is suitable for society. I think in the current system, you should be able to learn under pressure. I hate that that is the thing, you know, but it's just like the reality. I think in my school, we it wasn't pressure really because we would do 5 hour exams. Like a whole day is just an exam, and I think that's the opposite. I felt like we were being like overwhelmed by this much time. I think being able to think quickly and on your feet is good because the current system kind of needs us to be able to adapt to very different situations. Like the world is not linear, the world is not sustainable, it's not stable. So I think it is kind of important to understand how to work under pressure. But I mean, if you guys have a trust fund and your parents have money, like no, relax, you okay, so yeah, I think it's like we should learn to be under pressure, but I don't think it's good that that's the case.
All right. And in your video, you talked about, first of all, you mentioned something, I wrote down the quote. Now we love baggy jeans, Frank Ocean, art exhibitions. And I added book clubs because you mentioned book clubs later on. And I was like, that sounds like me. That definitely sounds like me. So I don't know, because like you talked about nothing being African about Nairobi, and like, because of westernization and that whole clash, you know, how can we define like Africanness in this current setting, you know?
That that's generally usually the question. It's like me and my friends we talk about this. So like we talk about decolonizing the mind, but how are we going to decolonize and we were born into colonization? We have no idea what it looked like before. I think what we can do is create a hybrid culture. What I don't like about Nairobi now, or like about globalization in general, is that the influence usually happens from the west to the east. It's never the east to the west. It's always like one side is dominating over the other. And I think Africans need to prioritize. Of course, we don't understand everything about pre colonial Africa because, like, they burnt all our stuff, but the things that we do know should come out. Like that should be something we are actively taught and we are actively celebrating. Like I don't know. I think it's crazy that like there's just some people who can like come to Africa like no visa. Like like they can just walk in. I think we should it's like okay, so I would define African culture as something that's pre-colonial. That's what I would say. But I don't think it is just it is like we can't go back there completely. So we have to find a way to merge these two worlds together in a way that still lets us be different from the rest of the world. For example, I think a good personification of that is Sauti Soul. Like Sauti Soul genuinely like Afro pop. And I love that. It's just like you can tell that they're African, but it's so palatable enough that even someone in the West would like it. It's just like you understand that this person is from a different world, but it's like a hybrid. That's why I think we should be going, celebrating our culture and our roots, not completely forgetting them, but also mixing it with newer things. Like I don't know, like we should be wearing kitenge more. You know what I mean? Like that should be casual wear, or I don't know, like like it shouldn't be a special occasion where we're wearing our African clothes. Like it should be something that's normal to everyone. What else? Like even like our 4C hair, like we should let that out sometimes, you know, like what else? I think in schools we should probably be allowed to speak Kiswahili. Maybe we should do some subjects in Kiswahili. We should maybe be teaching mother tongues to a lot more children. What else? Like I don't know. Like we should try making Kenyan shows, like really, really Kenyan shows. Like I hate seeing the movies on Netflix from Kenya because I'm just like, what? That's not it. That's not how it feels to live in Nairobi. Like you're lying. Like you're genuinely lying to the public. So things like that, where I'm just thinking we can put these things together. You know, pre-colonial Africa, what we understand of it, but also find a way to still be helpful in a globalized world.
Oh yeah, and I don't know. I've never watched the films in Netflix, but I know you can walk me through what happens because first of all, I don't use Netflix. Ha ha ha! What a shame. But I was like, people like I was having a conversation actually with one of my friends, just African friends, and we were planning on having like a movie night, and we are going to like one of the my friends from Cameroon was like she's going to suggest a Nigerian movie, and my Mozambican friend was like, hell no, we ain't gonna be watching that. And that's just like that's a reflection of like what Africans and Kenyans think. Like we
Mm.
hate Kenyan films, we don't like our music, and you mentioned that in your video. So how can we reconcile that? So the first question, first of all, is like, what do the Kenyan films look like, and how can we make
Mhm.
it so that people enjoy the films?
I think a lot of Kenyan films try to be really American, like in a way that I'm just like, I'm not like, it doesn't feel real. And that's the thing. It's like, bro, how are we going through a Kenyan movie? Not one person has spoken Kiswahili. Like, what are we doing? Like, there's like, okay, for example, I think there's one called something about it's Daisy, Sincerely
Oh
Daisy.
yeah, I've heard of
That
that. I've heard of that.
it really stresses me out to think about the movie because like the English was just too much. I was just like, guys, we have to descend into Kiswahili at some point. I think a lot of it was this one about I forgot what it's called, but it's about like a couple and they have like a bachelorette party and I'm just like, bachelorette party, what the heck are you guys talking about? Like this is not a Kenyan thing. Like it doesn't. I think also a lot of it focuses on very upper class situations that is not the reality of Kenya. Like like no one's going to the CBD, no one in the movies in a mat, no one is, even when they go shags, I'm just like, why? Like the shags looks too nice. Like what are we doing? Like it's not authentic. I think it would really improve if we were just able to understand the reality of Kenya and not try to. One thing I always say is that when you try to appeal to the West, you lose like a lot of supporters from Kenya. And I think that's even what happens with creatives, like musicians, smaller musicians in Kenya that are in the middle class. They will definitely make like an R&B track or a pop track, and I'm just like, okay, good for you, but like you're not gonna get any Kenyans to listen to that. Like if it's not, if it doesn't feel like home, no one wants to indulge in it. I think we need to make art that feels like home, something that is like real. I love Nairobi Half Life. I hate to say it, I love Nairobi Half Life. It is the best Kenyan movie that has ever been made because it shows Nairobi in the best and worst ways possible. You're just like, whoa, Nairobi is great and it sucks at the same time. And I feel like that's real. It felt so, so real. Yeah.
So how can we make it so that like when I'm talking to not me because now I'm old, but in the high school setting most especially, like when students are talking to each other,
Mm,
whether like from the holidays and they're talking about films and music, how can we make it so
yeah.
okay so that they just like talk about Kenyan music apart from Sauti Sol because like Sauti Sol is usually the staple that we don't have anything else to talk about, or the
Mm,
films like they just like romanticize the films and see themselves in the films and love them.
mm. I think a lot of it has to do with the government, actually. I think the government doesn't give enough funding for good movies to be made. Like Nairobi Half Life was like 2000s, like early 2000s, late 20, like early 2010s. And it's well shot, but like everything after that, low budget. So there's not enough people going to screenings of Kenyan movies. I think also in the same vein, I do see like smaller artists make like smaller films, but they're usually of the middle class. upper middle class, and it's just like it's not gonna bang because like not it's not a reality most people share. So I feel like if the government was really going to fund creativity, the creative industry, more art would be made that is really really good. um Even like making it more affordable to go to the theater, like watching movies and like screenings every day, because like going to the cinema is so fun. But the people just can't afford it. Like, like that's 800 bob for a ticket. You could have bought food, and in a place where you're living under $2 a day, like I'm not gonna buy a ticket to go. So you would much rather like go on the internet, you download something on a flash drive and you watch it. And of course, it's not gonna be a Kenyan film because Kenyan films are not like that big for us to be able to pirate them. So a lot of it is actually government incentive to fund the creative industry. And if it was funded fully with vigor, I think a lot more would be Kenyan music on the air, but also just like, I don't know, more films that I've put in theaters. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know, in your high school setting, because I filmed a podcast episode and we were complaining about how like students in international schools don't learn Swahili. Was that the same case for you?
It was.
So
But like,
you. Mm-hmm.
I understand it. It was a German school. And I think a German school is different. Like I get it. I don't think it's right. I think if you live in that country, you should be obligated to speak that language. I think it's mostly just like it was hard because in a school like ours, which is like a certain nationality and a different nationality, a lot of the kids they rotate each year. Look, so like 3 years you go, after 3 years you're gone. So maybe it's hard to start Kiswahili from the beginning when everyone is already at the front. So I think it was just a bit hard to juggle, but I do think Kiswahili classes should be offered in every single school in Kenya.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
now I don't know, because I was talking to like also someone from an international school, and as you've also said, the education there over there is like amazing because it nurtures you to be critical thinkers and just
Mhm.
thought people. So how
Yeah.
can that be translated into like the normal Kenyan school, so that critical thinking is just an everyday thing?
I think it's hard because the generation that does the planning for education, like the education ministers, are very old fashioned. I think it changed. It was like a bit better with like Matiangi. Like he was trying. So I think when we have the newer generation going into it, but also people who've genuinely, I think the issue that happens is that kids that go to international schools and they have critical thought as like a really important part of their lives leave Kenya and they don't come back. And that's the issue. It's like, I want to go back and be like, okay, like how can I help improve in this certain aspect? Like, what have I learned from my upbringing? So it would really help if people who've grown up being taught critical thought were actually going into government and coming back to help improve the education system. So once this generation of geezers is out, I'm sure like things are gonna change and like the education system is gonna look totally different.
All right. So how has life been in Berlin? And I don't know, because Berlin is okay. First of all, Berlin, the film, the series. I've not watched it, but I'm looking forward to watch it. But yeah, how has life been in Berlin?
I don't live in Berlin.
Oh.
Sorry. I don't. I used to. I used to stay in Berlin. I came here when I was 16 for like an exchange program. Stayed with a host family for 6 months. That was fun. I live close to Hamburg in like a small medieval town. And it's like a uni town. I guess it's fine. I do miss Kenya a lot. Like I loved Nairobi even before I left. I think it was my first time. I'm out of like I've just graduated. I had a job. I was feeling good. Like I was enjoying life in Nairobi as a teenager. And then I got pushed here. I just recently turned 20. And I don't know. I feel sometimes I'm like lonely. I miss my friends. I miss the vibe of Nairobi. I miss being able to like text someone like Uko, like like let's go. I miss that aspect of Nairobi. Just like the people. The people are so fun and they're like always down for anything, which is like kind of worrying, but it's okay. Like it was fun.
And you talked about Afrophobia in your YouTube video again. So
Mhm.
why is it that, as us as Africans, we're just Afrophobic and we hate being close to the proximity to Africanness?
Because it reminds us of poverty. And
Wow,
that's
that
the
is so
thing.
succinct. There's like, okay. Yeah.
Like, yeah, like, when the system of colonialism was basically to tell you that anything ethnic is disgusting. Anything that reminds anyone of being an indigenous person is bad. Like, that is the basis of colonialism. So anything that is associated to Africanness is barbaric. It is poverty. It is like ew. And I think it's just the burden of the colonized people. Anything that reminds you of Africa, even within Black Americans, with Caribbean, like Afro Caribbeans, anything that reminds them of Africa is poverty. It reminds you that um, you're not human, because in the certain system that they put us in, money dictates your humanity. If you have money, you are like more like, because they said like we had too many resources, they took it from us. Now they're at the top of the pyramid. They deserve more things. Anything that reminds them of us as Africans, people with little money, it's not good. You're not human. It dehumanizes you. People hate feeling like they're barbaric. And yeah, it's really, it's bad. It's bad. We want to impress the white people so bad.
Yeah, most especially like in the films, as you said, and in writing. Toni Morrison talks about how, like, she's always trying to write in her own perspective and not trying to cater to the white gaze and stuff like that. But
But sorry. Yeah.
yeah,
Please go
it's
ahead.
actually really fascinating because you also mentioned that, in Kenya, how like people like listening to Western music and like watching Western films. But once we get here, most especially, I don't know if it's the same case if you've met like other people in Germany, but
Mm.
in the US, once we get here, we just like start listening to now the Kenyan stuff more often. So I don't know
I
the
was lis-
paradox.
I was listening to Anguka Nayo every day. I came here, I was just put on like I wanted to listen to Wakadinali like every single day. I think it's because you realize like it's not as good as you think. It's just like it's not home. And I think that's actually a very big factor is that a lot of people don't get to experience what it feels like to live in a country where you're not the default. When you're not the default person, you are just like, wait, these people have it all wrong. They're racist to you, they're cold, they don't, it's just like, okay, something's up because this cannot be the Europe that I've been praising my whole life. And I think that's such a missing aspect that most Africans don't get to experience. The loneliness that comes with being in Europe. Like a lot of like this is the capitalistic paradise. It's bad. Like, the industrialized complex is like everyone's super lonely. And I think we just like miss a part of community. And it feels good to like listen to things that remind you of home. It's just like, okay, there's a place outside there that is not like this. There's a place where I people want to go out to dinner and like, eat together and we eat with our hands. And I think it just brings us comfort to know that there's something outside this like gray and tall buildings and the sun is back home. Yeah, I mean, for me, of course, it's been cold, but yeah.
It's also been really cold over here. Yesterday it was
Yeah.
like -6 and it felt like -14 in like at 2 a.m. So that was sad.
Which state are you in?
New York.
Oh, how's that?
It's nice. New York is amazing. I'm not even going to lie. Like I'm having a blast over here. But there's also the paradox of like since I came to New York, this is the first
Mm-hmm.
time I've listened to Gengetone. I never listened to Gengetone before I came to New York. I'm watching this series in YouTube called Tuki, like it's Tuki. So it's like a
Mm.
series, like a Kenyan film, and I'm vibing with that. And I sent it to my sister. She's in Boston, and she's vibing to it. But my sister's back in Kenya. Like, guys, you guys, I don't know what happens to people who go to like the States because once you get here,
Like I'm in tune with Kenya culture. I'm here like looking at the Spotify charts, like Kenya, Kenya's top hits. But like I want like so do you feel the same way or is it mostly me in Europe? Because Europe is a very lonely place. Is it the same way in New York?
The capitalism, you can feel the capitalism very much, I'm not gonna lie. Like, yeah, like people are very individualistic. They don't have
Mm,
genuine connections, because when I came, I realized it's like people are reading off of a script, When we got here,
mm,
like freshman year, last semester, it was like, how is Colombia? How are you adapting to the uni and stuff like that? Then later on, like after fall break, it was like, how is fall break? That was like the icebreaker. After fall break, Thanksgiving. How was Thanksgiving? The elections. How do you feel about the elections? Right now, I'm pretty sure, like after winter break, when you go back to like when you start the spring semester, it will be how was your Christmas? Those are
mm,
where the questions will be gravitating toward. So people just converse in a very like it's like they've rehearsed the conversation. It's like it's scripted. And I was now thinking, like back in high school, like we didn't have that, scripted mentality.
mm.
Conversations used to happen. Like we didn't have to like think of like, how are your midterms going? Because like when it's final season over here, that's the first thing everyone will tell you, like how final season, how final season. I'm pretty sure like I talked about my finals like over 50 times. Because that's the first thing that people will just be saying. But in terms of the loneliness aspect,
Mm.
I just like try to talk to people back in Kenya, most especially like my family back in Kenya, so I cannot like feel the loneliness or isolated. But someone can definitely be isolated over here. Yeah.
Do you feel like you have a routine? Is it a very routine life or is it spontaneous?
Oh, I'm a very spontaneous person. I'm sure like
Okay.
a lot of people have routines, but I
Mm.
just like can't work with routines. I feel like it's very nihilistic, just like knowing how like you have to wake up to doing the same thing and doing the same thing and doing the same thing. Yeah, so I don't really work with routines.
Is it possible? Because I feel like in Germany it's not possible to be spontaneous because like the people are very rigid. Is it like I like your friends like yeah we should go somewhere right now? Like I'm down. Like are they like that?
It depends with the friends. Some are down, some are usually not down. Now that's a very good question because since I ask people to go out and it's really like we have to plan before time. Most of the time I'm not
I just
like usually, you're like just asking them at that minute. So it's usually like something
yeah
we've planned, we've set up, we've set aside time and you're like, okay, we're going to go out on this specific date and you confirm the night before.
yeah
Yeah.
like this is very different from Nairobi culture. Nairobi culture is just like "Uko?" like are you there down like after class they're like where are we going? It's just like that's exactly what I'm talking about when I say the community here is very planned. In the West, like
Yeah. It's very
you
planned.
I, even like going up to someone's house because like I have an African friend and we are like very chill about coming to each other's places and like sleeping over and stuff. But like other people, you gotta ask like a week in advance, let them know. Yeah,
I don't know, like even in terms of me talking to other people who are not Africans, because I feel like Africans you have the same vibe no matter like whether you're from
yeah.
Cameroon or Nigeria or stuff. But like talking to people who are not African, it's like the
Mm.
humor doesn't hit home. And you have to be
Especially
careful when you're talking to them, most especially like Americans, because I feel like international students, just in general, like international students, we're used to like humor and we can like make bad jokes and stuff like that. But Americans are very careful in how they talk to you. It's like they're scared of being racist. They're like, oh my goodness, am I racist and stuff like that. So they're very careful in the way they speak.
with the white Americans, yeah.
Yeah, white Americans, African Americans, or Black Americans, they're very careful. Like all Americans in general, even like Asian Americans.
Do you think that that has to do with something that like the fact that you're in New York?
I feel like New York is actually more, fluid. It would be more. I feel like it would be more tight when you go to the rural areas, like I don't know, um, Arkansas or something. I don't know.
I feel like went to Atlanta. I feel
Hmm.
like maybe it would be a bit more relaxed or like, Minnesota. Because it's like mostly black. Like I don't know if it's mostly by demographic, but the impression is that it's very black in general.
All right.
So do you think because like New York is just like it's multicultural, so people have to be a bit more aware of what they're saying?
Mm,
Or
yeah, yeah, that could play a factor, being like multicultural, you know.
mm,
But I feel like over here, because it's an urban area, people are like
okay.
more, liberal. So they want to cater to everyone's needs,
Yeah,
if you're this type of identity or if you're this other type of identity, they're very careful not to offend you. But in
yeah,
the rural areas, I feel like they would be more conservative.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I see that.
I don't know if that's the same case in like Germany. Is there like a distinction between the rural areas, or because when I think of Germany, I think of this place where it's cold. A lot of people are
Mm-hmm.
wearing coats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't. I mean, it depends. Like in my uni, definitely. Like, okay, actually, no, because it's like it's very few black people. Like we're very few black people. We're very few international students. Like most German places, most German unis are majority like 80-90% white. Um, if there's any type of intersectionality, it's maybe LGBTQ. Um, that like the resources are there, but anything for POC students, actually just black students doesn't exist because like we're just not a demographic in Germany in general. Like like being black is such an anomaly. Like you see another black person, you're like, wait, like it's noticeable. So but then again, I am very okay with that. I understand where I came. Like I am fine with understanding my, what that meant for me. And I have a home full of black people, so I'm not really worried about being represented in Germany. Like, I'm not Afro German, I'm just Afro.
Mhm.
So I'm very okay with the state of like they're not really aware that I'm here. And that's cool. Like, cool.
All right. And is there some element of like when someone talks to you, just a sizzle of, white supremacy?
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially if you're like, because I went to a German international school, I speak great German. And so they would be like, oh my God, you're so fluent. And I guess it's like nice to hear that. But it's like, I'm like, why? Like, you would not be nice to me if I didn't speak fluent German. Like, there's a certain sense of having to adapt in Germany. They really care about that. They care about adaptation. They do not care about, like, they want you to really adapt and be German. They're like, if you're gonna be here, you're gonna act German. Um, and so I guess that's the like supreme part. Like if you do not act like them, they do not
Mm.
think you are cool. Like they won't be nice to you. I've gotten so many things just by being able to speak German. And also the fact that I grew up around German people. I understand how they act, I understand the culture. Things are not foreign to me. I'm just like, you know, another black person in a German space. So yeah, there is a certain sense of there's a difference between you and I, um, and speaking German helps them navigate other people.
All right. First say New York because like New York is,
Mm.
as you've said, it's very diverse. Like people
Yeah.
usually talk about how like maybe in the rural areas or in the south, you might be the only black person. Chances are when I get out of here, I will see another black person. It's not like, like a huge thing to be black over here. But there's definitely an element of like, them
Mm.
first of all, there are racist things that happen, but it's not
Really.
as out there as someone who would like they usually say that this racism is nuanced and it's like covered in the institution and stuff like that. So it's not like as outright, that them being very racist. But I've had like
Okay.
in Europe, most especially, someone was talking to me and she studied in Bristol, so it's like in the UK. And
Yeah.
as you said, because like you are one of like the only black people over there, like you raising your issues is what for her it was difficult because again she was only like black person or like one of the very few. So how would you like raise your issues? Is there a platform where they can make you like cater if you have any problems or experience
Like,
any form of discrimination?
yeah, in my uni for sure. Like you can talk about it. Like if it's effective is the question. And usually I just don't feel like I need to. I'm just like, I know you people are not gonna help me. I know this is my, my plate to bear. I think I sympathize a lot with Afro Germans because Afro Germans, like they've been raised here, like this is their home. But just because of their skin color, they will never be accepted as Germans. And I think in comparison to Black Americans, like they're American, and it's like something like their ancestors have been there for years and years and years. Um in Germany, if you're Afro-Germans don't like to talk about the racism that happens, the institutionalized racism. They don't like it because they're in the minority. Like they could easily just be told to go back home, like just go, which is crazy because most of them are born here. But um, there is no like as a society, Afro-Germans just cannot talk about anti-blackness. Like it's not something that happens, especially if you live in like marginalized areas. For like if you are someone who's like from immigrant background, you're probably going to live in an area that is not like, the most suburban, clean cut area, and they'll be like, oh, but you guys, you have this many crimes and this is what you guys do and stuff. It's just like, yeah, of course, when you've been like systematically oppressed for years and years, like duh. So yeah, Afro Germans don't speak up. I also just don't like, this isn't my place. Like I'm like, whoa, this is not home. Whatever happened was crazy, but I'm going to leave soon. So that's not my issue. Yeah.
Right now, going back to Kenya, you talked about femicide in one of your TikTok videos, and yeah, femicide is a huge problem in Kenya, and we had like protests in March, I think, and then later on again in the last part of the year, we also had protests. And what I don't really find fascinating is that we just do the same things over and over again. Einstein, I would have said, apparently it's Einstein, but we can't verify that. Talked about how like insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So I feel like for us in Kenya, as we protest, we just do the same thing over and over again. Like we go to the streets, we protest, and then we get beaten by the police. Then we complain in social media, and then we go back home, we rest, we stay quiet for a while. Then someone else is killed. Then we go back to the streets. Then the police beat us again. Then we complain in social media. So what can we do differently that will address the femicide problem in Kenya and misogyny in general?
Wow, the thing is, misogyny in Kenya is like, it's a class issue as well. And I feel like people don't get that. Like people never put the two together, that misogyny is also a class issue. As middle class women, we have the power to get angry and go into the streets. But someone who is reliant on their husband bringing food, back home every single day, they're gonna get hit. Like it doesn't matter. Like it's like a class issue as well. So a lot of it has to do with bettering education systems, allowing that women are out, like there's like child marriage going on. Like, okay, I need to calm down. I always find it fascinating that we practice liberal feminism and white feminism in Africa. I'm just like, do you understand where we are? Like, this is not like, oh, CG 50-50, pay the split the bill. No, this is they're killing us. They're marrying off children. Like, they're people not going to school. Like, this is bad. And it's a class issue. It's the fact that middle class and working class don't mix ever. It's not a problem that the middle class recognizes. For me, it's very important that every single woman is afforded education and every single woman gets to be educated. And then the government also just comes in with that. Like, what type of education are you giving? Where, like, are these women dependent on men? Most probably, because men, especially when you talk about the informal sector in Kenya that is so big, it's men that are going out to farm or kwenda mjengo. Like those are the people that are doing labor work. Like that's the majority of labor workers. And if we think about how many working class women are being exploited as house helps and stuff like that, but also just like these stereotypes that we have that what women should be doing, it's so exacerbated within the working class. It's a class issue. And then the fact that we don't mix like ever, like this actually blows my mind. And that's why I always talk about the middle class in Kenya, because I'm like, we could help. We could really help each other by educating each other, by like telling the government, hey, it's not okay that 50% of us are living in abject poverty, because poverty means that the men are going to be frustrated and they're going to take it out on the people that are weaker than them. And that is going to be their wives. That is going to be their daughters. That is going to be their girlfriends. So a lot of how we deal with misogyny is also how we deal with class by holding the government accountable, but by also mingling with each other and creating places where we meet and we talk about these different things. Like even tribalism plays like a huge deal into it when we talk about all the different things that were given to us through colonialism, because like I think misogyny came from colonialism, the sexualization of the female body. These are things that are still, you have to unlearn them. And you don't unlearn them if you don't have a good education, which the working class is not privy to. Like, that is not something that is just like there for most people. Like, I definitely think the protests are good because more people get to hear about it and we have like a discussion. And even if we're beaten by the police, so be it. Tunachapwa. It's okay. But we're doing something, we're talking about it in the country. And also just recognizing that women are human beings is something that has to be taught. And you're not gonna think that a woman is a human being when your boss at work is paying you 500 bob to haul stones every day. Like, you're going to go home and you're going to be frustrated with your wife and you're gonna beat her up. Like, it's hey, like Thomas Sankara wrote a really good book about how class and women and like how freedom is in like contingent on the fact that women, like you can look at the socioeconomic indicator, like a socioeconomic indicator of definitely how women are doing in a country. If a woman is doing really bad, then it's mostly like a really like poverty is on like crazy. And misogyny is really bad in Kenya because poverty is really, really bad in Kenya. And even if we think about the middle class, a lot of how, because guys our age are also just as misogynistic, it's just that they know that they'll go to jail. Like, we can active, like sometimes we can put them in jail. Like sometimes that's the thing, it's not even 100% of the times, but like we can track them and we can put them online and they will be known, because the middle class is so small that like most of us, we can know each other, we can ruin each other's reputation, and stuff like that. Like with them, you just have to. I I think at this point, when it comes to feminism within the middle class and middle class women, a lot of responsibility also falls on the women to understand, like, you can't be friends with a bigot. Like, you can't be friends with them. You can't be friends with people who are misogynistic. You have to, and you can't date people that don't treat you well, don't treat other human beings well. Like, let's force the men to be good. Like, they are educated enough, we are educated enough, we know that like you are not supposed to act like this. Like, you really need to remove like the patriarchal mindset of like, I need to impress this boy so he can take me out on a date. Like, you need to just be like, no, he's bad. I shouldn't want to be involved with him. I shouldn't have to prove my worth. Like, by being a woman, you already have so much worth that you give to the world. Like, you don't have to be with someone who's really bad for you. So it's a very complex issue in Kenya, misogyny. But through education, class solidarity, responsibility, and also just like the willingness of men to learn, I think we can go somewhere. Even the protests, like, we're doing something. Mhm.
And it's really interesting because I was also having this conversation with someone I welcome to the podcast, and we're talking about how, like, when I go to a girls' high school, I was in a girls' high school, and for
Mhm.
us, we were amazing. Like, we knew what we wanted. Like, we were just those girls, And it's different in a co-ed school where, like, the girls and guys. And first of all, something that makes the women, I guess, just think that they're lesser beings is, I was being told this by one of my friends who went to a co-ed school, and she was like,
Mm.
it's just normal for the head prefect, the school president, to be a boy. And,
Mm.
that already, like, makes women think that they're lesser beings, which, like,
Interesting.
in a same sex school or same gender school, I would just like be like, everyone, we're all girls, so we don't even have to think about like the guys or impressing the guys. Like, we just don't care about no guys,
I
so.
think I would have to disagree with you.
Mhm.
When it comes to fighting misogyny, co-ed schools are better. Because like okay, you like if you're in a class with a guy, you'll be like, whoa. Like he'll do something crazy and you'll be like, that's not good. If I think the thing is in Kenyan schools, boys become a phenomenon and girls become a phenomenon because you're so far away from each other. You meet up in the holidays for like a month. And of course, these are hormones. And I think that's even why we have such a huge rate of pregnancy, like teenage pregnancy, is because you're so isolated from each other. You don't get time to like date when you're a kid and like date when you are young, and be like, no, like I want better for myself, Um, when you're in like I went to like a school where it's like boys and girls, you like I've seen very many teenage relationships. They've, like these people go through it for like a really long time and then at some point they're like, wait guys, boys are not, it's not the center of the world. It's not the end of the world. But I think also another thing that a lot of people don't think about is beauty and feeling attractive as a woman and how men play into that. They understand that if I choose you and I think you're pretty, it means something to me as a girl. That's something that just is there. Like feeling like an attractive human being as a woman is so important. And men help you feel like that. So they have that power over you where you feel like you have to be social capital for them and being pretty is good. And I think I am learning, unlearning that and just knowing that like, bro, like you're a girl, like you have so much more to offer the world than just what you look like. And being in an all girls school, you probably don't just get that validation of like, I'm pretty. So you go outside and in like uni, and there's a guy who's telling you you're so beautiful, and you just fall for it. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think I'm making sense or?
Yeah, it makes sense that you get exposure early to like the men, because I was shocked when I came to uni and I was like, patriarchy, oh my god, because like I
Exactly.
never experienced like outright patriarchy, and I was calling my sister when I came here like last year, and I was like, the patriarchy is real, guys, because like in high school it was an all girls school and we just don't experience the patriarchy like outright. And then I
You
came
don't
here and I
experience.
realized, oh wait, there's patriarchy, huh? That's actually a thing. But
Yeah.
in terms of like the co-ed schools, now the problem is how the
Mm.
leadership is. And I was talking to my friend, and she experienced both like the girls' school and the co-ed school, and she was like, back in our high school, like the girls' school, it was so good because like the girls knew what they wanted. But in like the
Mm.
co-ed schools, the girls have this element of being submissive, of wanting to impress the guys, and the guys feel like they're
Uh,
on top of the world. So I don't know why that dynamic is present when you're supposed to learn now, like you're exposed, like you have exposure therapy, but you just become worse. It's like you become,
I think
you
it's
know.
I think it's back home.
Mm-hmm.
Was like at home because like I had a very different upbringing. Like my mom is a very strong-willed woman, and she got her masters and stuff, and like she taught me the same way. So when I went to school with boys, I was just like, yeah, I'm generally just as good. Like don't play with me, My mom is not a very like meek woman. And if back home your mom is like, want to be, especially in an African setting, the husband is the one that gets everything. Like I'm going to cook for him. My mom was just like, nah, man, like, um, I'm not doing that, Like my dad is very open with like helping out and also just like telling me as a girl that you were so smart. Like he supported me a lot more. Like I have a brother, but I didn't feel like he was telling my brother he's more than I am. And so I think in like an African setting, as a woman, you're taught to be, this whole thing of like, "Sasa nani atakuoa?" Like you're going to be a wife. My mom never did that. Like that was not something that she did. So when you're taught that you have to go find a husband, like my parents hate the whole like, oh, did you? My parents do not like mentioning it. Every time I talk about like, oh, I want to like get married, they're like, no, please finish school. Just finish school first. So I can imagine that maybe in an African setting, in a more traditional one, that most of these girls just do not know that they don't have to be like that. Like that's just not, you don't have to be like that. And I think a lot of girls, like, you grow up wanting like a really good wedding and like a nice boyfriend, but I wasn't told that that was good. Like, my mom was just like, stay away from such things. And I could see that it worked for her. So I was just like, there's no reason I shouldn't, you know? Yeah.
Actually, I don't know where to because I
Hmm.
guess the first thing will be if we are to have a co-ed schools.
Yeah.
Um, it's just like to teach the women that you don't need no man, because as you've
Yeah.
said, like that is the narrative that is that was the same thing also in like my high school in a way, because like my high school was a devout Catholic school, so they really like draw from the Bible, and from the Bible, of course, like there's this element of like a woman has to submit to the man and stuff like that. So it will like start off with like teaching the girls like the man ain't the final like thing in the plot. Yeah,
Like,
because I feel like that's the narrative, honestly, with a lot of like
yeah.
girls just thinking that okay, after getting married or like getting a man, that's the holy grail. You can now like live, you live happily ever after. Yeah.
Exactly. I think in general, it's just like in society, we really prioritize like romantic relationships. Like, if you don't have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, you feel like you failed. And for women, it is particularly harmful for heterosexual women because the people that you're supposed to be dating, most of them are patriarchal and misogynistic. So if you're like, I need to get a boyfriend, you're gonna take anything that you see. And that's the issue. It's like you are not going to be doing yourself a service. So, guy, a lot has to be done. I think my parents decentralized romantic relationships for me. They they decentered like the idea that a man is better than me. They centered me as a person and my interests. Like, my parents forced me to do everything. They were like, you're gonna do piano, you're going to do sports, you're gonna be reading. My dad used to buy me novels. Like, you know, I was treated basically like how a boy would be treated in an African setting. Um, and I think that helped, like, just knowing that I can do it on my own, like, and I don't like there's more things to life than getting a boyfriend. And that's honestly something that people miss a lot.
And how can you compare the dynamics now in Germany versus in Kenya? Because here in the US, I feel like the patriarchy is more pronounced. Okay, that is a very biased view for me because I was in a girls' high school, so I didn't see no patriarchy till I came here. So how can you compare that now?
I think in Europe, because it's like, I don't know, I feel like they missed the mark. It's to a point where I'm like, are we understanding that the patriarchy is still there? Like, we are not like, can you guys relax? Like, I am so used to, because in my social circles, the men understand the patriarchy, but also it's just a recognition of the fact that they are in a place of like social acceptance, but also the fact that they're physically stronger than us, like that's something that they do. Like, so I really believe in chivalry, not gonna lie. I was shocked because here I had to get my own chairs and I was just like, I was just like, what? Like, are we not understanding that the men are stronger? Like, I think even in feminism, understanding that like women are like, if we're not as physical, like it's fine. Like, it's fine for men to do things for us because they care. Like, you know what I mean? Like, understanding a woman's humanity is also understanding that sometimes you're gonna have to carry chairs for her, like genuinely, like she's in stress, but also the whole beauty thing is so it's just as bad here. Like, girls feel like they need to be pretty all the time, and to get a boyfriend, they really want boyfriends. Everyone really wants boyfriends. Everyone is into situationships. Everyone is into dating apps. Hate that. Men are not coming up to ask people on dates. No, they just text you a message on Hinge. I can't. No, it just stresses me out because I'm so used to men that understand the systems around us, that are so nice to us and get it. But here's just like the women have fought a fight to the point where men are just like, si mlikuwa mnataka. Like, like, here, damn. Like, it's not it's not what I imagine a feminist world to look like. I don't imagine that I am being like heartbroken by a couple of guys on Hinge because it's fair that you have situationships now. Or the fact, like, bro, like, what happened to like chivalry is nice. I'm gonna say it, like, chivalry is nice. Like, help some girl carry something heavy. You know what I mean? Like if my suitcase is heavy and you're there and you can do it, why not? You know, my like one of my friends, he'd carry my our bags. Like if they're heavy, he'd carry them for they carry it for us. It's not like we can't do it. Just like he can do it in an easier way. Like it's not even a job for him. Is it like that in New York as well? How is it?
In New York, now let me see. First of all, I was shocked because, like, I thought in Kenya, I mean, the guys ask the girls out in Kenya, right? That's the norm.
Makes sense. Yes.
So over here, I realized that the girls can, be chasing after guys. I was like, guys, what? You know, like because I guess it's supposed to be an egalitarian society, so girls can actually ask guys out and stuff like that. So that was shocking because yeah, I just never saw that in Kenya, and I don't know, is that a thing in Kenya? Because I, in my side of Kenya, I just never saw that.
It's also just like centering men again. I'm sorry. Like you need to understand that in the current system, like you give a man more than he will give you. Like emotionally as well. Like you are going to carry so much emotional labor. There's no need for you to go out and seek one. Like he should fall like onto your lap and now you don't know what to do. It shouldn't be you looked for him, you chased him, because it's still centering that guy. Like you
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know the exact experience like in a Kenyan setting because I was in a girls' high school and I just didn't see the guys as much. So over here also there's that element of like guys are this element and girls just like chase after guys and they're okay. There's a different dynamic of course because like people are not a monolith of humanity, I guess. Like the women have nuanced experiences, but generally speaking, I can see that the girls it's like they're putting men in this pedestal,
Yeah.
The patriarchy is real over here, and like the girls worship the guys, and it's just really disgusting to see, honestly, because I thought that this is a developed country and the girls are in past that phase, but yeah, I feel like in Kenya, like Kenyan girls do it better. Like Kenyan girls are more self-aware.
Yeah, I think Kenyan women are like at least they make they won't. I think African women in general like we are not 50-50. Since we asking you on a day like that's not our vibe. That's not our thing. I slowly see it coming around, and I'm always like telling my friends, don't you dare ask that. Like it's not that serious. It's really not that serious. I think one thing though that I will say as a feminist, I don't understand why you should have boyfriend after boyfriend after boyfriend. Like I'm not. How are you finding enough men that you think are worthy to date you? Like what? Like there should definitely be a break where you're just because like there are not that many good ones. Like there shouldn't be that many that you are with. But yeah, like African, I think maybe the only thing that I see with Nairobi girls is that they have a hard time standing up. Like they don't, like how like a guy will take you on a date, and even though these Gen Z ones, they will take you out on a date and they'll pay and they'll be nice and everything. I think a lot of Nairobi women don't understand that they deserve that. Like, yeah, like they deserve that. Like, duh. So when they kind of like get into a fight or like they argue with this guy, he will like hold it against her, and it's just and she'll feel bad. She'll be like, oh no, he does all these things for me. I'm just like, so yeah, that's the bare minimum. Like he should do all those things for you. Like you're a girl he wants to date. Like what do you mean? And they just have a problem also just like leaving terrible men alone. Like because of the social currency that brings you to have a boyfriend, but also just like, in the middle class spaces, a boyfriend that like can buy you stuff and is nice to you and stuff like that. And it's just like, bruh, nah, it's not that serious. Move on.
Never serious.
Like it's just a dude. Yeah, honestly, I think a lot of women suck at moving on.
Sadly.
Yeah. I think is it the same in I'm thinking it's the same in New York. Like leaving a bum. Like do people leave easily?
In moving on, right?
Yeah.
This feel like, the vibes. I feel like the world is just the same everywhere you go, Like the way I thought that, that women, because I was like against the patriarchy even before I came here, like during my
Yeah.
phase of like after high school and just like learning about stuff. And I thought that it would be different over here, but I've realized that, the patriarchy is defined, it's well defined over here. And yeah, they definitely want to like please the men. And yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, I guess so. I think maybe the only people, like honestly, South Korea, they're doing so much for us. That 4B movement, like they're really miles ahead when it comes to that. But we all know that it's just not possible. Like the rest of the world is cooked. Like they are the only ones who are like, guys, nah, man, it's okay. Um, I feel like that's what we kind of need. Just the understanding that hey, you can live life without a dude. Like you really could. And if you're gonna let a dude into your life, let it be a dude that nourishes you. Like men can literally end your life, basically. And it's like they could give you a baby, but they could also literally kill you. And that's something that women just don't like. It's not given to women as a possible danger. My mom gave it to me as a danger. She was like, one wrong man and your whole life is ruined. And I was just like I was just like, what? Um, and I think that's always stuck with me. And I think a lot of women are not told that, like, bro, like this is bad. Like this is really bad.
It's actually, I don't know. It's very interesting how, but there's this whole thing of like the male epidemic right now, where like
Oh,
women have been empowered and the men have been left behind, you know? So I don't know. It's just like, are we just having gender wars because like we can't just agree with each other because we're different? Or,
I think
are we
it's
having a communication problem with each other? How can you reconcile so that we understand each other? Because clearly, all of the platforms present have not addressed the issue of like just making women and men coexist and not like, empowering one does not mean the disempowerment of the other, side,
I think empowering women empowers men. To be honest, like if you are a good guy, you're gonna find women who know their worth and they also know how to communicate and they understand what they want. So the male loneliness epidemic, it will end if men started working on themselves as well. Like you shouldn't want to control a woman, and I think that's mostly what happens in like the most relationships. A guy feels good having power over a woman, but you're not gonna find fulfilling. Like you're gonna like it's gonna be a toxic one where the woman feels like they have to um you know submit to you and like do everything you want, but you know that that's not real like love and you just want power over them, and it's just a whole toxic cycle. But I think women who know their worth, feminists, and men who understand the current system and patriarchy find themselves quite often. If you're a good guy, you will get like a good wife. Like I don't know. Like I think most of my feminist friends are in relationships like with good good guys. Then they're still guys, but they're good ones. The male loneliness epidemic is generally just like the boys can just be better. They can just be nicer, and they'll get someone to date. I still think romantic relationships have such a huge effect. I'm like, bro, I think also, oh yeah, one thing is that male friendships tend to be very shallow, because just they're not taught to be really close to each other. Like women are just not as lonely because I can tell you about everything that I've gone through. You know, men don't do that, and that like they also so when they find a girlfriend, they kind of just like use them as a therapist instead of using them as like a person and like seeing them as a person. So that also just helps them feel worse. So that's good. They should generally try to like be friends. I think community within men is also very important because you bond more with people that you understand each other's experiences. Like I don't have a lot of male friends because I just don't understand a lot of it. But I have a lot of female friends because we get each other's experiences, and I think that's important. Like fostering community outside of romantic relationships is important for both men and women.
And now you brought out that. Okay, now we linked that to
Mm.
I'm having a comb over here. I don't know why, but The element of like people oversharing, I guess that people overshare more here in the West than in Kenya, because like I've met someone that told me their life story and how they're going, and and I'm like, chill out.
You're a guy?
No, like every single person, as long as like they're American, they have this tendency of oversharing.
Maybe it's just Americans.
All right, so that's what they say in Germany.
No, it's not. Like, hey, here everything is like, how are you? Hi. It's just like, what do you? It's very. I think in Nairobi it's very different. Like, I've made really cool. It's usually like my female friends are very very open. Even the new girlies, I'm like even if I meet like a new girl, I'll be friends with them. If they're like a nice person and they like me, we'll be friends for like a really long time. I'm a person who just generally doesn't believe in like oversharing. Like that's just not a word that I think about. Because like if I'm friends with you, there's nothing that you share that is like too much for me. Maybe it can be different with strangers, maybe because I think Americans are just like maybe it's because it's all Americans that do that. But maybe they just find a light in you. You don't know. Maybe just you have an
So
inviting
maybe
aura.
I'm the person that.
Thinking like maybe you like give off like African vibes, like I love everyone and
Oh,
stuff.
right, right. Because I was like, and there's this meme my friend posted a while back, and she was like, someone is starting to tell me about the, childhood traumas and stuff, and she's like, it's only been 4 years, you know, like it's been 4 years. What do you mean it's been 4 years?
Do you feel weird when people do that?
Yeah, because I'm like when I meet you,
Okay.
I would like to have like a genuine like deep connection with someone. I don't like small talk, but don't tell me about your problems. Like we've just met. Come on.
And like why not? Like why is that something you think is like too much?
Because like that's how I've been raised, And there was also this thing of like I watched a podcast between like Lupita Nyong'o and Trevor Noah, and they were saying how like as Africans we tend to not say our stuff out here in the public, you know? Yeah, and I really resonated with that because I'm not meeting someone today and I'm telling them about like, my childhood traumas or like my insecurities and, the problems that I have,
I think I guess I just don't like it's very hard for me to understand that reality. My sister was she was disabled, right? So visibly disabled. So in a certain way, we had to overshare as a family. Like people would ask questions and you answer. And so I never really like I come from such a place of understanding because like I don't know, it was just something, it was very obvious that we had to like tell other people. And I guess that for me just became a normal thing, like people coming and like telling you, what their life is like, because we had to tell so many people what our life was like. And that's why I'm so like chill with like, because everyone's story for me doesn't feel like too much. Because once, like genuinely, people with disabilities in Kenya go through so much, and I was in that space, so we had to overshare with each other, but it was just like helping each other and understanding what we're going through. So for me, generally, like no one's life seems like too much. I'm just like, oh, like because I've seen it all. I've really seen it all. But I understand maybe for someone who did not grow up like that, a lot of life seems like a burden, or like it might be just a bit too much to understand from another person's perspective. I can get that.
All right. So we've talked about a lot, and the last question I usually ask is, what would you like if you had given the opportunity? What would you change in the education system, and or what would you improve, and or that's another question.
I've literally thought about this my whole life. First thing, I'd make every single school, every single public school, international, not an international school, a national school.
Mm-hmm.
Every single school be national. There would be no rankings, who, what, none of that. Every single school would be a day school. I like this body
A day
boarding
school.
thing.
Interesting. Why day school?
Because you need to go home. Like you need to go home. Your parents need to take care of you. I'm sorry. Your parents also have an obligation to take care of you and make sure that you're doing well. It's like, the thing is, teachers are terrible and teachers are mean because they're overburdened by 8,000 kids in the same place. Like, that's not normal. Like, that's not a normal thing. You deserve to go home and you deserve to have a loving family that tells you and helps you with homework and stuff like that. Like, and I know people are gonna be talking about like, oh, like what if people can't afford to be home? Bro, school should be free. Like, schools should be free. You should be fed by the government. The government should feed you. The government should make sure that your school is running well. Like, that should already like remove any sort of limitation. Like, there should be free food for everyone. Um, Also, no uniforms. Who needs them? That's some colonial stuff. Everyone gets to express themselves. You know, like we can also like have some African thing in there. Your hair should never be policed. Do whatever you want with the hair. I think honestly, going to like international school, like black people's hair was such a thing. Like you don't talk about it, and I could be whoever. Like I could have 5-month-old braids in. No, not really, but like you don't know. No one really cares. I could have an afro today. I could have a wig on, and like no one's asking questions. And like in African schools, what else? I would integrate sports. More sports needs to be made. We need like better swimming pools in schools. Like every single school should have a swimming pool. Every single school should have a basketball and a football pitch. Art and music should be given as choices that you need to do in school. Like you gotta do one or the other. I think it's really important to have that creative side of you being expressed. And it should be African music too. Like, you know, African art. Like we should talk about that. Yeah, and they would all be co-ed schools. Let's mix up maximum like 5K in a school. We need more schools. Genuinely, we need more schools in a yeah. Yeah, so that's what I would do to the education system. And I would also just like I would change some of the subjects to be taught in Kiswahili. Like it should be either you do like 5 subjects in Kiswahili, you do the other 5 in English.
What 5
Yeah.
subjects would be done in Kiswahili?
Like I think you can just choose. Be like, I want these 5 in Kiswahili and I want these 5 in English.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Natasha, for being in the podcast. It's been a pleasure hosting you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.